Welcome to In the Loop on County Cable Montgomery. I'm Neil Greenberger, and our special guest today, County Council President Craig Rice. Craig, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Neil.
Last time you were here on In the Loop with us, you had just taken over as County Council President. This interesting part about this job is the day you get sworn in, you start on the toughest part of the year right away, and that's putting together a budget and looking at the county executive's recommended budget and crafting a budget that works for the county and the council. You've gone through that process. You were on the council for 3 years before then. I know you were prepared, but what did you learn during this process as president that you maybe weren't ready for?
Well, one of the things that I always knew was that we always had to be a team when it came to the budget. The key is that being council president, you have to be the one that holds us together as a team, and making sure that we're all still focused on the same things. We all still have that same finish line in mind, which is difficult, especially in a time in which people are really trying to define themselves individually, understanding that this is an election year and want to make sure that people understand the principles that they've been fighting for these past 4 years. But at the same time, we still have to bring it together as a group of 9, and so that was a tremendous challenge for me. It really was, but one that I felt I was prepared for, being that I'm always about being a team player and bringing kind of everybody together around the same issues.
Is it more about the numbers or the personalities? Because in the end, you had all 9 council members vote for this budget.
Yeah, I think it really is about making sure that everybody knows that their piece is valued, that they understand that they've contributed and put their stamp on the budget, that what they cared about was included and was fully funded as much as we possibly could. And I think that's what my objective was all along, to really make sure that people had buy-in into this budget, that they felt as though they had their own personal stake in making sure that this budget went through because their priorities were in it.
We're going to talk about some of the specifics in the budget, but you served in this unique position. You were also in the Maryland General Assembly as a delegate. You went through some budgets there. What was different about this, being the leader of the county council budget, and what you remember about all the struggles to get a budget passed in the state General Assembly every year?
Well, it's a lot of stress, a lot of late nights and early mornings, really trying to make sure that you've got an idea of exactly where we are when it comes to financial positioning. There's a little bit of, seer saying that goes into this as well, trying to predict what's going to happen in the future and making sure that you're prepared for that. Also understanding that you've got a responsibility to then defend this budget in the fall when we go to our bond rating agencies in New York and tell them about how we were fiscally responsible, set aside the proper amounts of money, and also did what we needed to keep Montgomery County at the forefront of being innovative. I mean, there's a lot of responsibility that goes in, and I think that's a lot of what is encompassed in being the council president.
The budget was $4.99 billion. Now, I guess the good part about that is if you give the cashier a $5 billion bill, you get change back. So,
there you go.
A lot of the pressures as things are getting over the Great Recession is people want to start restoring and giving back to things that have been cut over the past 3-4 years. Adds a whole new dimension, even from your first 3 years here. We actually had some money to spend, but that doesn't mean it's easy.
That's right. No, and it makes it so much harder, really, when you do start to have a little bit. Last year we were still facing some really tough times, and so there wasn't a lot to spread around, and folks knew that. But now when you start rebuilding, it's where do you focus, knowing that all of those needs are so great and so important. And so it really is trying to achieve that balance and really make sure that we're focused on a lot of the needs that are out there at the same time. And one of the things I said at the beginning was that we needed to rebuild, to get ourselves back on track, to really start making sure that we're beefing up our safety net services and taking care of those that are our most vulnerable. And I think this budget represents that.
One of the big things it represents is Montgomery County Public Schools and the council's commitment to that. In the term of all agency spending, schools count for 55% in this budget. This public schools requested $52 million over the state maintenance of effort, the minimum requirement. You came up and backed a plan that made sure that they got their entire request. a lot of pulling, tugging, political capital in that. Why was it so important this year to make sure that they got every dollar that they wanted in that respect?
Well, I think that we needed to really turn the corner. Just as we have been with a lot of our other departments and agencies, it was time for us to really set aside the infighting and backbiting that continue to exist between MCPS and the council. We needed to come together for the sake of our kids. And that's where our main focus has always been. And I think that this year represents the ability for us to do just that, to really say that, look, you know, we're going to give the school system what it says it needs to address some of the challenges that we continue to see with an achievement gap, to see the rising number of students that continue to come through the schools, but more also, as a big component of that, is the creativity and innovation that needs to continue to happen in MCPS. We don't just need to shore up the folks that we're leaving behind, but we also need to make sure that we're continuing to allow for all of our kids to excel beyond, to be really competitive in this global marketplace that we see now.
That competitiveness comes down to what you'd mentioned, the achievement gap. Although the term has been around forever, I can't remember a time where it's come up more, or where the council and MCPS have said, we can't talk about it, we really have to do it. And I think that's part of the spending. It's like, we can't keep talking about it.
Absolutely, exactly. And it's putting your money where your mouth is. I mean, we've continued to say this is a priority. We need to step up and say, look, the school system's getting every single dollar. So we expect to see the needle moved. We expect to see some of this great creativity and innovation when it comes to adding these specialized teachers that are highly qualified teachers, that are highly motivated in some of our neediest schools where we're seeing the pervasive achievement gap. I support that. I think those are great things for us to do. Adding ESOL teachers to make sure that children aren't discouraged because they haven't mastered the English language yet, to give them the ability to excel and be successful. I think those are the things that are really at the forefront of what we tried to focus on this year.
Another thing Montgomery County is always focused on is trying to help people be healthy, because it leads to healthier people in school, healthier everywhere. We have a program called Montgomery Cares, which provides health coverage to our low-income people without health insurance. It's generally recognized as the best local program of its type in America.
That's right.
The council this year again made great strides in adding beyond what the county executive meant to bolster Montgomery Cares. People will have, if they have a health problem, they can find an answer in Montgomery County. How come Montgomery County has worked toward these answers and has a pretty good, if not always improving, program, and the nation can't find the same answers?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I was just at a conference where folks were talking about the great creative, progressive things that we can do in our community to address health issues. And folks were very keen on Montgomery Cares. A lot of folks that were from around this country know about the program and really want to try and see it implemented there. The fact of the matter is it's difficult to do because it requires funding. But the reality is that the money that we invest comes back twofold. You know, not having people that are using hospital emergency rooms as their primary care physician means that we're actually saving money. So the investment already pays for itself. Oh, and in addition, these folks are then healthier, able to work more, they need less support from us. All of those things are all beneficial when it comes to us being fiscally responsible as well as morally responsible in doing the right thing to help folks that are struggling.
Do you think our program is strong enough now that the national leaders could come in and look at what we're doing and just say, let's do it in every community?
I actually think so. There have been a number of legislators throughout the country that have asked me about more information about what we're doing with Montgomery Cares since I talked to them about it, and so it's very exciting. My hope is that other communities will start to do the same thing, because it really is a great model and is something that can make a difference in a lot of lives of a lot of people throughout the nation.
Another way you've talked about being a model from your first day in office, you said governments, especially this government, has to start being a helper of small businesses. So much attention is always given to big businesses, which is also great and important. And in this budget, there's a lot of economic development aid, especially what the council added in its discussions. Can you tell us about some of the things that are in this budget that's going to help business people of all types in this county.
Well, it's great to see that, under the leadership of great people like Councilmember Nancy Florine, who heads up our Planning, Housing, Economic Development Committee, who started our Montgomery County Business Development Corporation to make sure that we're marketing Montgomery County. That's a huge aspect for small businesses because when it really comes to highlighting what's going to happen there, so we added additional money to do just that. But they're working on some great innovative things when it comes to helping. If a person wants to start a small business, they can actually now use a website that will show them available markets and what's there. That's all funded in this budget. We have more economic development personnel as well that will be helping these small businesses navigate through the system, especially some of our minority, women, disadvantaged-owned businesses. So there's a great deal of money that's going in, understanding that small businesses are the lifeblood of economic development here in Montgomery County.
Do you think that's ever going to change the way we're becoming a little more urban in different places, and now so many national people want to be part of every development in Montgomery County? Where do the small business people stand?
I think that they'll always be an integral part. I grew up here in Montgomery County, and ever since then, small businesses have always played a very strong role. And I think that will continue. We're not going away from that. What these large companies do is give the ability for more small businesses to grow, to help support them, to be partners with them, not just service partners, but actually partners with them in terms of providing the very things that these large companies do.
We're running out of time, and there's so much to talk about. But before we finish, I did want to talk to you about one thing in the budget this year, and that's the council's commitment to libraries. Beyond what the county executive had already recommended, the council added extra hours, extra materials, a huge commitment. And during the tough years, the libraries took some of the toughest beating of all departments. But some people look at this and say, in 10 years, there'll be no libraries in this country. People will be on the internet. They'll get their information other places. Is this a statement the council's making that no, those people are not right, their libraries will always be around?
That's absolutely right. And as the council's lead for libraries, let me just be very clear. Libraries are here to stay in Montgomery County. They are evolving, however. And that's important to understand that, with the proliferation of ebooks and the great things that are going on, there's a lot of that we see incorporated in our libraries. But the key is that there are still plenty of people, including my daughters, that love to crack open a book, that sit there and have e-readers at home, but love to get a book from the library and just sit there in their bed before they're going to sleep and read a book.
Not just in Montgomery County, but you are so dedicated to libraries. What's the future of libraries in this country? Are people wrong that they're going to disappear, not only here or everywhere? Or?
Absolutely, because libraries serve as a community hub. They really are a place where people can get a lot of things done. It's not just about checking out a library book. It's about making sure that you can look up information if you don't have a computer at home. It's a quiet space for a child who might live in an environment to where at home they're not able to do their homework, to where they might not have a parent that's at home for them to help them to do some research for a project that they're working on. All of those things are things that happen right there in that library. Access to periodicals and newspapers, something that we're seeing that's going by the wayside but are still at our libraries so that people can keep up to date, so that they can find out about the latest job openings, so that they can type up a resume. All of those things are all about what our libraries and what the future of our libraries look like, in addition to the fact that they'll still have books.
Well, we're going to have to end on that note. So much more we wanted to talk about, so we're just going to have you back.
Excellent.
We want to thank Montgomery County Council President Craig Rice for appearing on this edition of In the Loop. I'm Neil Greenberger. Thanks for joining us on County Cable Montgomery.